Chat with me, Miles from Miles Marketing. And this week, as you can see, the title is How to Structure a Press Release. Now, I was going to say exciting news. It's hardly exciting news. However, my bite-sized products are now able to buy through my website. So if you want to visit milesmarketing.co.uk, I've now made it very easy for you to be able to book yourself in for sessions and pay for things online. So yeah, something new there. You can also catch up with previous bite-sized marketing LinkedIn chats on my website too. So maybe go over and add to next month's stats. Right, now, how to structure a press release. Now, I'm going to open this by saying, first and foremost, I highly recommend that you engage a specialist. So if you do have the budget, get involved with a PR company who are going to do all of the heavy lifting for you. They will know exactly how to structure a press release for your target market. They will know all the journalists, all of the right channels to get you noticed. So that's the very first thing to say. I'm a big advocate of using specialists for specialist jobs. However, if you are a small business and you want to take on writing your own press releases, this is who this webinar is based at. So I'm just going to check that we are online, and we are indeed live. Here we go. Yes, we are. I'm just going to turn this down. Sorry, I do this so I can see if people ask any questions, right? So if you have got any questions about how to structure a press release, please pop them in the chat and I'll do my very best to answer them live on air. As always, you will see down here, it's always reverse when I'm on the camera. You'll see down here my phone number. This is my real phone number, so by all means, drop me a text and ask me anything specific that you may have, and I'll do my very best to help you out. So there we go. Get a PR agency involved if you can, if you have the budget for one. I can tell you now, they are worth their weight in gold. In terms of a press release, the very first thing you need to do is make sure that what you're going to be talking about is newsworthy. Now, this may sound like sort of common sense, but you know, just writing about some kind of business update that you have is not going to prick anyone's interest to get involved and publish it. So you need to make sure that what you are talking about is newsworthy. Think about why any publication would want to publish your news. And if you can't think of why they would, then it's probably not a good topic for a press release. You normally need to have some kind of angle. There needs to be a way of sort of engaging the readers and or listeners and asking them sort of the main questions, like, do they relate to it? Can there be a conversation started by the journalist actually publishing this? At the end of the day, you know, publications, they need content. They need content to be created by businesses and by people. So don't think that just because you are a small business, you haven't got anything to contribute to different platforms. You definitely have. Think, if you sort of wonder what do you need to think about in terms of something that's a topic to be engaging, well, think about the hot topics that are in the media at the moment. Think about whether or not you've got an angle or a tie-in to one of those topics. You know, I don't know, maybe it's an environmental issue or equality or diversity or innovation or something around AI, or maybe it's public interest. Maybe you've won a prize. Lots of angles to go from there. One of the most important things to think about when you're writing your own press release, though, is that it needs to be one page only. And I'm talking about like an A4 page, not a massive long scrolly page. One page only. That's the way in which you're going to get it recognized. when you send it in. So a couple of sort of steps for you, I guess. This is how we'll sort of go through it. The first step is to make sure that you've got something noteworthy to shout about. Make sure that where you're shouting about it is where your target market are, right? This may again sound like common sense, but the example I'd give is there's no point in you pursuing lots of articles in, say, the trade press if you're solely a B2C, a business to consumer type product, because your customers aren't going to be consuming the trade press. Does that make sense? So make sure that where you're publishing your press release is where your target market will consume it. All right. And the third one is to have a set structure. And you only need to sort of do this once to build a structure, if you like, or a template. And then you can form all of your press releases around it. Now, you can definitely go online and find templates out there, but I'm going to give you the broad brushstrokes in terms of best practices for how to structure a press release. So the first thing is a headline. I'm going to go into more details about these different bits, but in terms of the structure, we're talking about headline, a sub-headline or a lead or a synopsis, a date line, and again, I'll go into detail about what that is, the main body, a quote, company info, a logo, and media contact information. So let me take each of those in turn and talk about them in a little bit more detail. So in terms of the headline, this is the main thing that's going to catch people's eye. So you want to focus on the main point, if you like, and something that's headline grabbing, but don't make it clickbait, okay? Make sure it is relevant to your particular article and the main point that you're getting across. Try and be succinct. Don't make it too long. Try not to use capital letters and exclamation marks. You can sort of bold the heading and make it slightly bigger if you want to grab the journalist's attention, but try and keep it short and succinct and make it relevant to what you're actually talking about. The second section is the sub-headline, or it's sometimes referred to as the lead. Now, I'm going to say this is a little bit like an executive summary, right? You're trying to inform the journalist, because look, the press desk or whoever you're sending the editor, whoever's going to pick up your press release, depending on which organization you're sending it through to, the journalist is going to look at lots of press releases. And what you want to do is give them a little brief summary that gives them a flavor of what's coming up in the main body of your release. So this is not always necessary, but I'm going to say it's worth doing, because what it does is it sort of whets the appetite. If the journalist likes your headline and you can pull them into reading a little bit more about the context of your article, you're much more likely to pull them in if they are interested. So this is your sort of summary part here. This is where you write a brief paragraph where you sum up what you're talking about. All right. So that's the sort of the sub headline. And I want you to think about the 5 W's. What are the 5 W's, Miles? Right. Look, these aren't hard and fast rules, but this gives you some structure in terms of how to build your press release. So the 5 W's are what's the news about? All right. So what is your article about? What's the news about? The second W is who is involved, people or businesses, who's involved. Then when is it happening, or when has it happened, right? Giving some sort of context in terms of time. Where has it happened? Either within the business or within a community or within a local area. Why is it important? Okay, so the 5 W's are what's the news all about, who is involved, when has it happened, where has it happened, and why is it important? And if you can sort of weave that into your synopsis, all right, your sort of your subheadline or your lead, then you're gonna hopefully grab the attention of the person that's reading your press release. Then the next section is called the date line. And this is journalist speak, right? But in essence, the clue's in the name. You don't always have to put the date in there, right? Or the location. However, these sort of things, again, do help to give context, especially, let's say, if you're sending it out to a local paper, because a local or regional paper, they want to include local or regional news. So it's really handy for the journalist if you insert this date line. And it's simple, but in my opinion, necessary to give the journalist the context as to when and where. So, you know, you can have the date in there, the location, the town, the city, anything that's relevant to the sort of geography, if you like, of where the thing has taken place. You don't need to include the date, but I would say if you're announcing an event, right, or a launch, then mentioning in the date in which the event or launch is going to happen is important, because, you know, journalists have deadlines and the article may not be relevant for that next particular issue. It may be relevant for a future issue when it's closer to the launch or the date in which your release refers to. Okay, so hopefully that helps there around date lines. In terms of the body, the main body of your release, well, this is where you add the detail. But again, keep it very succinct. Try and use those 5 W's to really build and expand on what you've already written within your executive summary part at the top. Don't repeat things verbatim, but try and sort of expand and give more detail. And again, think about the 5 W's and think about reasons as to why people would want to review it. This needs to be a large paragraph at most, okay? Tips to remember: don't be salesy. Within any newsworthy piece, this is not about selling your products and your business. This is about making sure that you're providing good content for the reader. So make it factual, don't make it salesy. Including a quote, I would always suggest that you include a quote. And the way in which you would sort of write this, let's say that I'm writing it about myself. Some journalists like to include people's ages, right, within a piece, depending on what it's all about. So it may, and whether or not it's relevant, right? So it might be something like Miles Phillips, company director, age 51. That's how you sort of tee things up. And I would say if you're going to put a quote within your release, then make sure it's a quote from the most senior person within the business, either the managing director or the owner or the chief exec, or if it's celebrity related, that it's, you know, a quote from the celebrity that perhaps is involved. So again, it's as newsworthy as possible. So you introduce it by saying Miles Phillips, company owner, said, and then a one line, I would say, in terms of the quote, and make it sort of, again, not salesy, but relevant to the product, relevant to the release you're actually doing. And then if you want to then insert a few more words that are relevant to the quote, perhaps expanding on what it's relating to, you can then go on within the release to add a further comment from Miles. But instead of saying Miles then went on to say, you generally use their surname and say something like Phillips continued, and then you insert the extra piece. Okay, so there's sort of some etiquette there in terms of the structure. So add a quote if you can, and especially when sort of two parties are collaborating. Maybe there's been a merger within the business and you would have a quote from both leaders of the companies that have merged, if that makes sense. Then the boilerplate, as it's referred to, the company information. So once you've done your headline, your subheadline, your body, your quote, it's always important to insert some standard information. It's called the boilerplate, right? About your company. So maybe about the history, what it is that you do. It's again a couple of lines that describe the industry that you're in, the products and services that you offer. And again, once you've written this once, it's standard, it's there. With any press release, I would include a company logo, so that certainly within the trade press, that can be utilized by the publisher, but also any imagery that's relating to the release itself. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a team shot or something. You've got a new team shot and that relates to the expanse of the business or wherever it may be. Right. So think about incorporating any imagery or with online content, any video that may help promote the release itself. And lastly, at the very, very bottom of your one pager, you need to include your media contact within your business, or if you're using a PR agency, they'll insert their own information there. But basically, you need to put some contact information there, because this one pager, right, it's not going to be used in its entirety to service the publication's article necessarily, because it's just one page and it's a little flavor. It's meant to whet the appetite of the journalist. And when a journalist wants to publish your article, they will contact you and they will ask you for more information. Okay, so please think about this as a way in which you can sort of grab the journalist's attention with the probability that they will ask you for more information on the subject matter further on down the line. Okay, so there we go, how to structure a press release on your own. Now, I've summarized this in some top 3 tips, as I like to do. So if you're going to jot this down, then grab your pen and paper. Top tip number 1, make it newsworthy. All right, make sure that what you're saying is newsworthy and keep your target market in mind. Make sure that the publication or where you're publicizing this particular bit of news is going to get picked up by your target market, because that's where they consume their media. Number 2, keep the 5 W's in mind in terms of when you build the information within your press release. So the 5 W's, I'm sure you can reel them off yourself now. They are: what's the news all about? Who is it all about? When did it happen? Where did it happen? And why is it newsworthy? And the last thing to do is to make sure that you keep this to one page. If you send in reams of paper, then I'm telling you the journalist will not even look at it. So keep it succinct, keep all of this information I've just mentioned to one A4 sheet. And if I was you, pull yourself together a template, make sure all of the things that are standard are there, and that will give you a really good indication of what you need to expand on when you produce your next release. Okay, so I hope that that's helped. As always, I'm here every single Tuesday at 12:30, where I like to share with you some marketing knowledge so that you smaller businesses out there can get to grips with it. If you have anything specific that you'd like me to hear me say on a Tuesday, then why not drop me a text and let me know. If you want to be a special guest on our show, then again, you can get in touch and we'll see whether or not we're a good fit to get you live on air. But that's it. There's been no questions this week live. If you do have any questions when you watch on catch up, then please pop them in the chat or send me a DM. And if, like I said at the start, if you haven't checked out my website lately, then go to milesmarketing.co.uk, where now you can purchase bite-sized products directly through the site. And until next time, ta-ta for now.